If you've fallen victim to an extremely toxic or abusive relationship or environment, and you could feel that relationship or environment drain you while the other person seems to be capitalizing on the energy that is being drained from you, you may have been part of what's called a destiny swap. For all of you energetically sensitive people, empaths, people who just simply care about others, it's vital for you to know what destiny swapping is, how to identify it, and how you can heal yourself and protect yourself from it moving forward. Hola, my beautiful dreamers. Welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Marisa LaBlue, and I mix everything cosmic advice with everything self-development to become our dream selves every day. If that sounds like something you're interested in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. That way you don't miss future videos like this one. And be sure to follow me on social media platforms if you want more background content, lifestyle content, and astrology content. So what is destiny swapping, and is it actually real? In my opinion, destiny swapping is a bit of a melodramatic way to refer to a form of extreme energy vampirism and energy harvesting. Destiny swapping refers to when someone intentionally or unintentionally drains you of your life force energy and quote unquote trades places with you by capitalizing on your energy. An example, and this is just an example, not based on true events. Maybe you have a best friend that is not naturally gifted at speaking and writing the way that you are. You have a clear natural talent of being an extremely eloquent speaker and writer, and you want to leverage that to help people online by creating a YouTube channel, speaking on TikTok, having some type of social media platform where you help your audiences learn something because you know that's your gift. But your best friend is kind of wandering aimlessly. They don't know what their purpose is. They don't feel they have a purpose, and they actually don't have much of an identity, period. Therefore, whether you realize it's happening or not, this friend has probably tried to ride your coattails a lot of different times, and maybe you overlooked it, you excused it. I know I've been there. Now, a normal energy vampire would probably take the route of making you a little more insecure as time goes on, taking small jabs so that way you don't feel as good about yourself, making sure that you stay insecure enough to not surpass the energy vampire, to not surpass their standing so they don't feel bad about themselves and they can stay on equal footing with you and feel better about themselves. Now, someone who is a destiny swapping energy vampire will not only keep you on the playing field with them, they will then use your perceived weak spots as a way that they can wedge themselves into the light that you naturally emanate and use that light to spotlight themselves. Now let's go back to the best friend that has no purpose example. The person that is good at speaking and writing and knows that that's their gift. They were being consistent on social media platforms, posting consistently, building a consistent audience, and the friend said she was inspired by you, so she decided to start basically the exact same thing, a platform where she's speaking and writing and she's teaching people of a certain subject. You think that's awesome because you're not an energy vampire and you actually want to see people do good. So you go, oh, that's awesome. We should definitely collaborate so that way you can be introduced to my audience and maybe they'll resonate with you and maybe you'll get more followers. So you two collaborate on a video on one of these platforms. And that brings a lot of your audience to her. But as time goes on, she is subtly or maybe not so subtly taking jabs at you, making you feel more drained, more uninspired, more insecure about your craft. And because of that, whether you consciously realize it or not, you start posting less and less and less. And your growth and engagement starts to dip, and you start to feel even more unmotivated, and you're getting caught in almost this black hole of a spiral downwards, while your friend is still posting and seems to be doing consistently very well and getting even better, maybe even surpassing you, doing the same exact type of content you were, even though she's not actually passionate about it. It's essentially a false identity that she inherited from your soul identity, kind of like an energetic identity theft, or I think some people call it spiritual hijacking. This situation is what most would call destiny swapping. And in a sense, that is kind of an accurate term, but this is why I say that's a melodramatic exaggeration that kind of holds fear-mongering that I don't like. So here's the important caveat and why destiny swapping is a bit of a dramatic term. Someone can pretend like they're living your destiny in place of you, but no one can actually touch or follow your divine God-given path. That is just a spiritual law. That is spiritual fact. In astrology, we look at the birth chart and it kind of narrates your life path and the energies that dominate your life. So if we're looking at it from an astrological standpoint, for example, no one is able to just steal your life path, your birth chart. They have their own life path. They cannot trade out. That is just not how it works. So destiny swapping in its exact terms does not exist. And you may be thinking, well, the friend successfully swap places with the person who was good at speaking and writing. What about that? It's going to fail. If someone does successfully destiny swap, it's only temporary because spiritual law will realign itself so everything is back on path no matter what. So she may have temporary success getting engagement, growing followers, but it is not her identity. It's not her purpose. It is not what her soul's calling is. So therefore, eventually, it's going to fail. Something will happen that will come back around and take her off of the path that she supposedly switched with you. Whereas everything is always trying to align for you on your God-given path. It is your spiritual anointing. They cannot take it from you. What they can do is they can disrupt you. You can allow these energy vampires and energy harvesters to disrupt your path, place obstacles in your path. That is the only thing they can successfully do, is cause you to stray, cause you to have doubt, cause this spiritual warfare within you that causes you not to live your purpose, but they cannot actually hijack it from you. Spiritual law will always win. Now we're going to talk about some destiny swapping red flags so that way you know how to identify it better if you haven't already or moving forward. Number 1. The person seems to mirror your experience and potentially love bomb you in their own way. This is because they lack their own sense of identity and attempt to mirror yours as a way to bond with you. Oftentimes, the strongest way they will do this is by creating a sort of trauma bond, because this is the type of bond that creates the strongest energetic hold on you. It makes you feel the most understood, seen, and unconditionally valued by the other person, so you are more willing to excuse any weird or bad behavior on their part. To give you a real world example, I'm going to use one of my experiences. This is one of my earliest first experiences with an extreme energy vampire. Destiny swapping didn't necessarily happen, but I feel like it could have potentially kept happening. I definitely feel my destiny got interrupted heavily by this energy vampire. So this was in my toxic relationship, and I was 19 at the time, I believe. And we were all the way across the country from each other. So we were communicating long distance for a while before I moved across the country to him. Looking back now, one of the first moments where this trauma bond was being created, where there is like a high dopamine delivery from the person, and then an extreme jarring cutoff of that, but then you're so desperate for that dopamine again from the person that you'll excuse anything, and then it's just rinse and repeat. And this is one of the ways that energy vampires drain you for all that you're worth. I was in college at the time, and I was feeling extremely low and almost depressed because I felt like I had no purpose being there. I was kind of attached to the accolades of going to this prestigious college, this renowned university, and being the smart one and, the golden child. But it didn't resonate in my soul. My heart felt like it was quite literally dying. And my toxic ex was the first person I had spoken to who said that they could resonate with what I was experiencing, and the first person to actually put it into words for me and to make me feel so extremely seen and understood, bringing the whole we're both outcasts that have come together and we're kind of rejected from society. That was kind of the identity he placed upon me, saying that, we connected on that level, and I finally felt seen when I had never felt seen. Mind you, I'm from a very small town too. So at this point in my life, I hadn't met a ton of people and a ton of romantic interest. I was very naive, and I was just so attached to talking to him because I felt so understood, so cared for. But then one of the first moments where this extreme cutoff and the trauma bond was starting to really be formed was we were conversating one night, and I don't remember what I said. I couldn't have said anything that bad because I was a super timid sweetheart at that point in time. But I said something, and he wanted to control what was happening. I was trying to call him because he started ignoring me, and I was trying to call him because my heart was beating. I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I felt that dependency forming in real time. And my heart was like, oh my gosh, I need to make sure we're okay. Like, is he leaving me? He put his phone on airplane mode, so I could not reach him. Mind you, again, we're like 2,500 miles apart. And he, without a word, puts his phone on airplane mode so I can't reach him. And then when he feels he has basically put me in timeout long enough, he contacts me. They're doing that as a power play. It's a way to make sure that you become increasingly dependent on them and reliant on the attention and the care that they give you, so they have the power over you. By mirroring you and making it seem like they're very similar to you, you feel like you see yourselves in them. So you have even more empathy for them, and you're even more willing to forgive these jarring moments that happen between you two. Number 2 is that your independence is slowly fading and you become more dependent on the person/environment. The purpose of this is to slowly take away your own identity and sense of self-worth. So this is basically tagging on to my last point. They will do things continuously that start to drain you of your identity. In the toxic relationship that I was talking about, for example, this person definitely made sure to stonewall certain parts of my personality that were part of my true soul's purpose. For example, we would be at a Barnes & Noble, and I was always drawn to chakra books and astrology books. At this point in time, I had not started studying astrology or practicing any of my own spirituality. I was actually trying to follow a spiritual path with him, which was Christianity specifically. But when we were inside bookstores and I would see spiritual books, esoteric books, I would always be drawn to them, and he would say, no, that's bad. That stuff is demonic. And it started in my naive mind and heart, it started to wedge something into me where I'm like, well, I trust this person. And if they say it's bad and demonic, then it must be. Like, it has to be. Is something wrong with me? And then I started to feel like something was wrong with me being drawn to those things, which then makes me question what my heart is pulled towards. Your heart's pull is such a powerful call and such a powerful way to keep your identity intact. Most people start to trade their soul, as we like to call it, when they start basically misplacing their heart with things that don't resonate with them, with things that don't fulfill their soul, the things that don't strengthen their light. So when someone is stonewalling your identity and kind of trying to make you feel bad about things you're naturally interested in or drawn towards, that's one of the ways that they start to make you more dependent on them. And the less of an identity that you have, the more their identity shines rather than you outshining them. Number 3, there seem to be subtle power plays and remarks that make you question your perception of reality and confidence. So the concept of death by 1,000 cuts, I'm sure you've heard of it, but it's basically that you get 1,000 tiny cuts. Those tiny little jabs matter because they lead to your demise. It's not one big, obvious slash. It's arguably more dangerous when it's these tiny cuts because you're not even sure it happened. It's almost like a paper cut. A lot of times you don't feel a paper cut until water or some type of solution hits the cut and you're like, did I cut myself? A red flag that someone is destiny swapping and draining your life force from you is that they administer these tiny little cuts as time goes on. And it's not until you have enough of them at once that are causing enough collective pain that you might start to notice it. They tend to make these tiny cuts through subtle remarks about you. Subtle remarks that might make you question your own sense of confidence, creativity. One example that I have is I used to have a best friend. This person, I realized in hindsight, would make a lot of comments towards me that seemed like tiny little jabs. And I was still very impressionable and naive at the time and willing to excuse a lot of those things, especially because something I loved about this person was that they were very blunt and very funny because they were blunt and whatever. I would never say things like that to them, because why am I doing that? They're subtle attempts at power plays that make you question yourself. And by doing that, they start to take away your confidence and your identity. Number 4, there is an undertone of always prying for more info than you feel comfortable giving. If they are people who seem to always be prying over your boundaries, they get upset if you have boundaries, or they say you're being secretive. Like, I remember my toxic relationship. I've always had a passcode on my phone because it just seems common sense to have a passcode, because you don't want your privacy breached by a random stranger that might steal your phone or whatever the case may be. But I remember he got super upset and told me I should not have a passcode on my phone because that means that I'm being shady. Like, that means that I don't want him specifically to get into my phone. And I remember thinking like, it has nothing to do with that, and has everything to do with the fact that my phone can fall into random people's hands and there's a bunch of personal information in there. But again, I was naive, gullible, very young. So I was like, is there something wrong with me? It sounds so ridiculous, but people who definitely make you question your own boundaries as if there is something wrong with you for having them, rather than something wrong with them for overstepping them and not respecting them. Red flag of an energy vampire. Number 5 is they tell other people distasteful gossip about you and or share intimate details of your life with others, but they try to hide it or mask it as worry or concern. For example, with the ex-best friend that I was talking about prior, when this person started to kind of lose possession of me because I was starting to do more things on my own, I was entering a new relationship at the time, and I was just kind of starting to step out of my really negative energy and finally starting to go into a more positive chapter in my life. They started to become bitter and they started to be more possessive over me. And one of the things that they did is they started telling all the people in our workplace, because we had worked together. I had helped this person get a job at the place I worked at the time. I found out from a really sweet coworker that I had at the time that this ex-best friend of mine was telling the whole staff very intimate details about my love life and everything that were it was extremely embarrassing to just openly be telling everyone in my workspace about my secrets and the private parts of my life. Felt like such a breach of respect and a breach of my sense of autonomy and privacy and everything. It made me feel very powerless. This isn't the only time that I had something like this situation happen, and it usually comes from somebody who is looking at your position and going, why is it them and not me? They try to, again, make a power play where they make everybody else dislike you, like you less, look at you differently, look at you in a bad light, so they can look like they're in a better light, so they can be the more likable one, they can come out on top. But they'll mask it as, I was just worried about you. Like, it's not like you to be going out and staying out on a date past midnight. It's just, I'm concerned. No. Number 6, they make jabs at your passion and areas that you feel naturally confident in. This definitely goes back to the idea of taking away your identity. They don't want you to feel like you're better than them. They don't want to feel like you're better than them. So they will try to take the thing that you thrive in, your natural gift, your natural talent, and they will try to whittle that away. So you start to express it less. You start to be less confident in it. They essentially want to make your aura go down because to them, they perceive your aura as very powerful. They fully recognize your light. And they're like, not okay, because they're outshining me. They're making me feel bad about myself or whatever. I still want to be close to them. I just don't want their light to outshine me. And I don't want their light to make me look bad. I don't want their light to make me feel bad. But a lot of people are projecting onto you. They see that you have a natural talent and they either want to control how you use it, or they wish they had that for themselves and they feel bad about themselves because you represent what they think they are not capable of. People themselves, most of them do not believe they are capable. But when they see someone doing it, they think, again, why them, not me? Number 7, Your intuition is repeatedly communicating with your nervous system regarding this person. One of the biggest red flags is when your nervous system is responding negatively to somebody. And when your nervous system is consistently responding negatively to somebody's proximity to you, it will show up. It will show up in your features. I remember in my last relationship, this wasn't an extreme energy harvester, but it was definitely an extremely energy draining, life force draining relationship. I remember I was getting consistent breakouts all over my neck. I have videos of me that I took out in nature. I'll try to find one where you can just see all of it along my neck. And I thought it was just something I was eating, but it seemed like nothing I did fully would clear it up. I haven't had that problem again. Whatever I had happening was not hormonal. That was my nervous system being like, mayday, mayday, get the heck out of here. You have stayed here too long. It's quite literally draining you, and it's hurting your body. It's hurting your health and your physical well-being. Your instinct is so highly intelligent, and we have been conditioned to be pulled away from our instinct. Why? Because it's powerful. It's one of the number one ways that you can recognize and discern what is not for you and what is for you. People can manipulate you better if you're further removed from your instinct and your intuition. So start getting in touch with your body and paying attention to what it might be signaling to you about the people and environments that you are in and around. Now let's talk about how to protect yourself, heal, and realign. Number one is you need to remove as much contact from that person as possible. I realize that it may not always be realistic for you to completely remove somebody who is this type of energy harvester from your life. Maybe they're part of your family household, maybe there's someone you see at family gatherings, etc. And we all know the complicated dynamics that social media adds. But if this is the case, if these are individuals that maybe you can't completely cut off, then try to remove as much access from you as possible. Something that I have done for a long time is hiding my stories from various people because I'm trying to make sure I keep things politically neutral in the spaces that I'm in. I will block them from seeing as much of my stuff as possible while trying to keep the illusion of peace. Since you have to be around these people, I know you don't want to be in like a completely weird spot, but remove as much contact as you possibly can. If it's somebody like an ex, for example, you should block them, especially if you're someone who is prone to attempted destiny swaps or extreme energy harvesting from people. People remember you. People remember your light. You're extremely memorable. And so they will probably always try to come back and watch you to some extent. They might randomly pop up on your story and in your feed and watch what you're doing or like one of your posts or whatever. And then that keeps the thread open, and they are still able to siphon some of your light by doing that because they still get to see you and they still get to consume some amount of your energy. Everything is an energy exchange. Even me making this video, I am agreeing to put myself out here on the internet so you can consume the information I'm giving you. That's a form of energy transaction. So everything is energy transaction. And if this person gets to come sneak onto your page and watch what you're doing, and that keeps that soul tie much more alive than it would be otherwise. Number two is to set your spirit free again. What I mean by this is, if you've been in the shackles of an energy vampire, your spirit has been completely contained, maybe even suppressed and crushed. Feed life into your spirit again. I remember one of the first things I wanted to do when I got out of that toxic relationship was dye my hair red. Because I always wanted to dye my hair red. I was like, you know what? This is one of the ways I'm going to emancipate my spirit. My spirit is full of fire and passion and creativity and life and ambition. And all of that had been suppressed and crushed in that toxic relationship for years. So when I came out of it, I'm like, I'm doing everything my spirit and my heart's calling me to do. And one of them is dyeing my hair. And that was like a physical representation for me to kind of rebrand myself, but more so return to who I was before that relationship took my life force from me. So it was one of the first ways for me to feed my life force back into me and make my light shine brighter once again, because the light will never go away within you. People will just try to take from it and dim it as much as possible. So feed your light again. Make your light shine super bright once again. Number 3 is to actively rebuild your sense of identity and confidence. One of the ways you do this is by doing activities by yourself that you enjoy. One of the main things that I had to do to heal from that really toxic relationship and that toxic friendship, because they both fell out of my life around the same time, is I had to learn how to be autonomous again, how to love my independence again, because those people were feeding off my codependency. If you stay in the codependent energy that those relationships cultivated in you, you'll fall into another dynamic just like that, whether you realize it or not. It was really weird at first because I was used to always having somebody around to watch a show with me, to go to a cafe with me, to work out with me. Like, I always had somebody with me. It took a while. It takes time. You have to be patient, but it's so worth it. I made sure I actively spent time hiking by myself, going to cafes by myself, finding purpose in the mundane moments by myself. I'm like, oh, I can watch whatever show I want. I can go wherever I want. I can do whatever I want because I don't have a person that is reliant on my codependency helping dictate what I do, where I go, how I express myself. And there's so much magic in that. And once you start to cultivate that again, people who rely on you being codependent are much less likely to breach your life and to breach your soul. Number 4 is to actively reopen your heart and sacral chakras. Your heart chakra is obviously heavily connected to your passion, your creativity, and your ability to love in a healthy way. Your sacral chakra is like your sensual expression, your creative expression, and your connection to abundance. It's like your primary life force, raw, passionate energy. Both of these chakras get heavily blocked when you're in an extreme energy harvesting dynamic. My heart chakra was definitely blocked, and my sacral chakra, I'm still working on unblocking it. It can take years sometimes. Those relationships really made me question that part of myself and made me think, am I coming off as promiscuous, and things like that start blocking your sacral chakra, which as a woman especially so important, and starts blocking your heart chakra. I do have a video about being a highly sensitive person or empath and how you can heal your heart chakra in that video, so I recommend you go watch it. It'll be linked above. As far as the sacral chakra goes, movement, bodily movement. I recommend something like yoga, and then also doing regular dancing. Dance regularly, express your body freely, regularly, just move it. Move your hips. Your hips get really tight because that's where you're storing a lot of the sacral chakra trauma. So you need to move your body. I just feel so feminine when I'm taking a shower. I feel much more embodied because you're naked, you have water that's cleansing you, and I love to have music playing. My favorite band is Cannons. And Cannons has the best, relaxed yet kind of sexy, chill, atmospheric dance music. I love it. And that's a way to get your body feeling expressive again. Another way is to maybe shake up how you're representing yourself physically. Like I said, I dyed my hair red coming out of that relationship, and that was a huge way I emancipated my sacral chakra again physically, because it made me feel much more alive and confident and sexy and embodied and empowered. Number 5 is to reconnect to your spirituality. I think we're so focused on spirituality being what kind of tools you use, what kind of practices you do, etc. But I think it is so important that we return to the fact that spirituality is your connection to source energy. It is your connection to God. It is not a religion. It's not a spiritual tool or a specific spiritual practice. Those are things that can help contain and give your spirituality routine and structure and direction, which is great. But it does not necessarily connect you to source. Someone who goes to church every single week can be the farthest removed from God of anybody, of somebody who never goes to church. Those practices do not mean anything. You know your personal connection to God and to source. Reconnect to that in the ways that feel aligned for you, because the more far removed you are from that spiritual energy within yourself, the more easily you're willing to fall into the hands of something material and physical, such as another person. You can fall into relationship dynamics that are like a drug to you because you're relying on something physical to try and fill the void in your soul that you feel. Having that connection to God is one of the first ways to give your soul that foundation it needs to then make healthy choices. Connect back to God in the way that feels right for you. If you feel like you've ever been part of a destiny swapping dynamic or an extreme energy harvesting dynamic, leave a comment down below with your experience and if you have any tips or things that helped you so other people can read it and can make sure they never fall into one of those situations ever again. As always, I'm sending you so much love, and I am forever grateful that you are here spending this time on my little corner of the internet. Until I see you in the next video, thank you so much for being here. Adios.